Welcome to today's webinar, everyone. My name is Jeremy Lawrence. I am the Sales Growth Manager at Mark Supply. We are the primary stocking distributor, or the only stocking distributor in Ontario for First Company air handlers, PTACs, and HVAC products. We partnered First Company with ATS and got them on the SpecTool as an entry, ATS's first entry into the HVAC space. Obviously, if you're on this call, you're well aware of what ATS has been doing on the plumbing side, and adding HVAC to this to the SpecTool. We're trying to complete that full project for you and give you those options so that you can build out an entire spec through the tool. And a little bit about First Company. They are headquartered in Dallas. They're full manufacturing.
Jeremy.
Sorry?
Yeah, if I can just jump in there for 1 second.
Yep.
You may want to go full screen. It's showing the slide backdrop here. And just as you're getting that organized, I'll mention just a little bit of housekeeping for everyone on the tool or everyone on the call. So this is just another one of our ATS universities. We will have this recorded, as I mentioned at the top of it there. So we'll show you at the end of the presentation how you can find all the previous recordings. But for that reason, just like all the other webinars that you probably attend these days, we do have everyone muted upon entry. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat field along the way. I'm sure there will be lots of questions. This is, like Jeremy mentioned, ATS's first kind of foray into the HVAC world a little bit. And yeah, it's still showing the actual, maybe stop share and reshare. That might be the way.
Yeah, that's odd. I'm seeing full screen on my screen.
Yeah, we're still seeing the actual like PowerPoint. But yeah, so this is our first kind of foray onto the HVAC side. It's been a bit of a different approach compared to some of the other manufacturers on the system. If you've been with us for a long time, you know that ATS has had a long history with kind of the plumbing product world. But with the HVAC side, there's a lot of configuration that's needed, and within a single line, there's a lot of options that are built into it. So we're going to be going over some of the actual product today. Looking great. And at the end of it, we'll also show you how you can find the products on the SpecTool. And we'll walk through a bit of a configurator use case as well. So we'll show you how you can find the PTAC units and how you can configure them on the system.
Great. So as I said, First Company is from Dallas, Texas. Their full manufacturing center is there. They don't have any other centers. Everything is done right here in this building. Founded in 1966, they've been in Ontario for about 25 to 30 years in these HVAC spaces, especially in multifamily residential, and adding products as they've gone along. As we'll talk about today, they have a full breadth of product line for air handlers, from tiny suites and apartments all the way up to 25 tons of heating and cooling hydronic systems. So manufactured in the US and constantly updating their systems to meet new codes, new trends in the market. And we're going to talk mainly about some of the newest PTAC models that they've come up with today that are really making an impact. So quick product overview. All sorts of our air handlers and fan coils. A lot of these units, if you work in specifying HVAC products, a lot of these are going to look pretty familiar. You've seen these products under many different names over the years. Most of them were manufactured by First Company and then rebadged with someone else. And that's especially true in the early years of First Company coming to Ontario. That was how they kind of entered the market, with other manufacturers putting their name on it. But these are the most common sizes, shapes, and configurations that you need to deal with on any given project. Heating types: hydronic, electric, and electric with a heat pump, and cooling types: DX, or refrigeration cooling, and chilled water. These systems that we've talked about so far are all split systems. They do require installation to connect a condenser to the evaporator on site. First Company only makes one specific style of condensers, and that is a through-the-wall condenser. So it is essentially a half a PTAC. So it sits in a sleeve in the wall and exchanges outside air through the condenser, and then is connected via line set refrigeration pipes to the indoor fan coil. And those can be in just about any configuration. The through the wall split condensers do come in air conditioning and heat pump systems. Floor consoles, very common all over Ontario in institutional, commercial, and industrial systems. Very, either built into the wall or sitting off the wall. Hydronic heating and cooling are the only two options on these ones, and they can be either 2 or 4 pipe systems, meaning that they can either do heating and cooling seasonally, or the user has the choice depending on how the building is piped. These units are the most common that First Company deals with in the GTA. That when we talk about fan coils, the most common names that come up are Unilux, Train, ICI. There's a few others, and those are the ones that are typically being installed with the heating pipe risers right into condo buildings in the suites. And that business is pretty well set up direct from the manufacturer past any sort of distributor, wholesaler, contractor, and typically these are sold directly to the developer. So where First Company has found a niche inside the GTA is these units. These are most commonly installed in all the amenity areas, right? When you need a bit bigger of a system, and they can be designed to the space. So either 2 or 4 pipe, hydronic chilled water, belt or direct drive, ECM or PSC, and a huge range of 2 to 20 tons, depending on all the applications in the building. So they can.
If you were doing, say, your condo, typical couple tower condo downtown right now, where you've got a bit of your podium, your units would be supplied with the others, and then it's common to see, say, your party room may have one of these. Your if there's a gym, it would be running off of this as well.
Yeah, exactly. It uses the same hydronic systems as those suite fan coils that are supplied by direct, but so these tie right into the existing systems in the building. And we're going to talk about the configurator and how to configure, especially these PTACs that is the focus of the conversation today. But these can also be configured through the SpecTool configurator to a point, right? It gets to a point where we need to be able to dig into the engineering data on these units, and that's where yourself and the ATS spec reps would bring that information, and I would get involved working directly with the manufacturer to make sure you're getting exactly the product you need. And PTACs. So First Company has been a leader in PTACs throughout their entire history. The Eco series down the center here is one of the it's the most common PTAC that's installed in Ontario, and especially the DX cooling with hydronic heat units. They are, there's thousands and thousands of these units installed, and we do, as a stocking distributor, we do good business on retrofits, replacing these units. We stock parts and units in several distribution centers around Ontario. New to this series is the First Pack, which is a high efficiency gas unit, and the Fresh Pack series with an integral ERV built right in. So Fresh Pack is essentially comes off the basis of the Eco with the ERV built in as well. So PTAC units, as we kind of talked about, they are an all-in-one. They fit in a sleeve. They do need to be on an outside wall so that they can exchange air through the condenser, but they're all contained within one space. And First Company's PTACs are innovative in how vertical they are. So they fit into closets, much smaller spaces than competitors. And they are very easy to work on, very easy to replace. You just slide them out of the sleeve, and they you can work on them from all sides. So getting rid of these, that bank of condensers, either on the roof or in the parking garage, or worse yet, on the customer's or the homeowner's balcony, that's valuable space that we should, is a having that space is a selling feature. We shouldn't be putting a condenser there, especially an air conditioning condenser that is blowing hot air on them while they're trying to enjoy their patio in the summer. And of course, comfort, having the built-in ERB, having that fresh air coming in anytime the unit is running is always a benefit. We need to be putting ERBs into our systems anyways, and this is an excellent way of doing it while it's all wrapped into one space or one unit. So this common install of the PTACs, they fit in very sleek and small space closets. This this access panel here acts as both access for service and the return air and these panels are manufactured for these units by First Company, but they can also, and most commonly, standard closet door is used in installs. And as I said, so inside the GTA, where First Company is making the most impact is in those amenity spaces in the condos. Outside of the GTA, these are by far the most common units that are installed. We don't see a lot of chillers being built. It's the mid-rise and small high-rise systems that these are installed into. We see a lot less appetite for chiller installations outside of the GTA. So getting the air conditioning from other sources, these tend to be the most commonly chosen units because they are all an all-in-one, and they're very easy because everything's compact. It's very easy to split the billing on these units, especially with the high efficiency and low ambient heat pumps. It's just a matter of everything ties up into the electrical meter very nicely. These do use the space around the unit becomes return air, so it's important to either have return air from the door, or in this central picture here, they've put the return air access to the side. Most commonly what we see is that the return air is actually the space around the supply duct is used as a return air cavity. And so you can put return air grills further into the living space in the bedrooms where they should be. And that helps keep the wind noise down as well, because these units are installed right into the living space. And they do contain, a compressor. If you were to a unit like this with the grill right in the door, you would hear more of the return air wind noise than you would if the return airs were further away from the unit. With that said, I've been dealing with First Company for about 7 years, and previous to that, like I said, 25 to 30 years of these units being installed in Ontario. I've never had a noise complaint, not one, about these units being in the space. They are very, very quiet and very well engineered. So these units are installed into a sleeve, and the way this kind of rolls through is as the project is moving along, this space needs to be manufactured into the structure of the building, and then as the structure is going up, the sleeves are installed into the space by the general contractor usually, because they need to be fastened to the structure and then sealed. They don't require any insulation because of the way that they move. The fan operates through. There's provided that the return air is free to pull from around this unit. There's no worries about condensation or frost or air leakage. They're very well sealed. There are 2 different types of sleeves. This is what we call a side install sleeve. The unit can be pushed in onto the sleeve and then pushed into place from any direction. And then these 2 sleeves are for once they're installed. But this sleeve is meant to carry the weight of the unit. And it also acts as a condensate drain as well, which we'll see in a minute. Please jump in if there's any questions. These units can be a little different from what people are used to, but like I said, they're extremely, extremely common. The wall sleeves do prevent a weather-tight seal. They also have a few different features in them. As they're shipped to site, they are closed with a cardboard cover to make sure that if you're trying to heat the building in the winter, that you can maintain that heat. That cardboard cover comes out. One of the benefits of First Company's PTAC units is that the exterior grill that covers this is installed from inside the building. So you don't, regardless of the height of the building, or the difficulty in getting to the outside, you don't need a lift or a cherry picker to get to these units. Everything is serviced from inside all the way through. So this slide is about the fresh air ports on the FreshPack ERV system. But one thing I want to point out is that as this unit is running in air conditioning mode, there is condensation created, and the sleeve is actually the catch basin for any condensation that's created from air conditioning. And this is a 3/4 inch MIP fitting that sticks out of the bottom. So that you would require a sanitary drain and a P-trap below this to catch that. Or if there's a floor drain, of course, that's good as well. And then you just connect your condensate line directly to the bottom of the sleeve. Now, the other great feature about these sleeves is that with the grill installed on the exterior of the sleeve, if rain or weather was to get in sideways into the sleeve is designed to drain it right back out again. So it's not going to get into the space. If for any reason this condensate drain becomes clogged, before the water level gets to a level where it could overflow into the living space, it is drained outside. So there's a double safety feature to make sure of no condensate or water damage getting into the unit. And then there are also, we do most of the time, we always offer a condensate switch. And often it's a very cheap switch for what it does. So if you're installing a FreshPack unit with the built-in ERV, of course, the ERV or energy recovery ventilator or heat recovery ventilator do need fresh air and exhaust vents to the outside. The benefit of these units is that we already have the sleeve that is exchanging fresh air while the condenser fan motor is running. So we can just use that. We don't need to punch 2 more holes in the wall and further worry about air leakage and penetrations and loss of heat. So there are 2 options, top port and side port. We want to keep the closets as small as we can. So I don't know that we've ever sold a side port unit. The top port is the best way to go to keep your closets as small as possible.
And a question coming in there actually on the wall sleeves, a couple of questions. Yep. So first on the ERV intake and exhaust, are those ERV intake and exhaust into the wall sleeve and not the standard wall box or the louvers?
Yeah, so we don't need a wall box or a separate consideration for that. So I think there's another picture coming up, but basically the 2 connections on the top of the unit in this one, or one in each side. So in very good representation here, the condenser fan motor sits right here. So it's pulling air in through the condenser coil and then pushing it back out this way. So this separator right here, this is fresh air and this would be exhaust air. The condenser fan motor is actually doing the work for us. So no, we don't need an additional wall box or any type of louver on the exterior of the building. The sleeve is doing everything for us. In this case, both ports are on the top of the unit, and the fresh air is piped down through the sleeve into the fresh air space below the condenser.
And then
so
on
that is one. Yep.
So is there a concern about the cold air or the fresh air entering the living space through the sleeve then?
So no, because anytime the condenser fan motor is, so the way to consider these units is so that with this being the condenser right here, anytime it's running, it's pulling air in and pushing it out. But even when it's not, inside this unit is technically exterior to the building. So the unit itself is insulated, and so there's only very few instances where we ever have condensation building up or frost. And and we watch for that as we're looking at projects or quoting, and we'll suggest accessories that may help with that. The only time I've ever seen the unit actually have any sort of frost on it is we did a project it was Sudbury, I believe, and it was the north-facing side of the building. So the coldest of the cold periods, there's a possibility that this case could get cold enough that humidity inside the living space would freeze to it. But we have so in that case, we supplied a insulation panel that covers the unit to stop that. The first company has made that consideration, and they have an accessory available to stop it. Yeah, it's extremely rare because the airflow, it's very rare for a to build up at all.
Perfect.
But that is certainly something to look at.
And then I think we'll cover this probably in a slide or two, or a couple slides. They're just asking for some of the more details on the capacity of the ERV. And then also just at the point for my little ADHD brain sometimes, you have there's like a little stop sharing and hide button. If you could just hit the hide, because I know we're gonna have a lot of details in the slides. I don't want that covered with anything. Thank you.
Sure.
Perfect. All right. And yeah, so I'm sure we'll get to the capacity on the ERVs coming up.
It's in here, and we can dive into it if people want to, but this is all information that is in the spec sheet. We can provide the spec sheet. We're also going to do the walk through the configurator and show you how to get the spec sheet from the configurator as we build the project. It can take some time to dig through the details on the data.
Yeah, we'll get to that. And then last follow-up question just on
that.
Typically, these are required to be 10 feet apart. Do you know if inspectors have issues with this? As a follow-up.
They do not. No.
Inspectors are not.
No, it's because it's the difference between so the ERV itself is it has its own integral fan, and it's pushing out into the sleeve, but then the condenser fan is pushing out as well. It's so diluted because of the size of this, like this grill, that it's actually going out is 20 by 46, I think, something like that. No, inspectors have it's all been approved, and it's up. These units are all approved to the new CO2 standards and fresh air standards with ASHRAE. No.
All right, we'll let you dive back into louvers. That's all the questions
we have
so far. Keep them coming.
So the louvers are part of the system. They are an opposite deflection between the fresh air coming in and the exhaust air going out, so we don't get any recirculation, and that leads to that point of the typical 10 feet separation between fresh air and exhaust air on an ERV. So these units are part of the system. We have had customers ask if they could get their own grills. They certainly could, but they'd have to be exact to this because the grill design is part of the airflow of the system, and if you had the wrong airflow, we could actually change the capacity of the unit. These louvers come as with 3 options. The most common is custom painted. So First Company is aligned with Sherwin-Williams, and as you're building and designing the exterior of the building, if you decide to go custom painted, we just need a Sherwin-Williams color code, and they will be painted in the factory to whatever color you choose. Beyond that, the standard stamped aluminum is also possible or popular, and we can have them field primered in the factory for field painting, but really, if we're going to do that, we might as well just paint them the right color for you right off the bat. So closet spacing, there's 2 ways to install these units. What we call a rear install and a side install. So rear means that the unit slides straight into the sleeve. Side install is if the closet door is in the side and the unit has to get pushed up onto the sleeve, turned, and then pushed in to seal against the sleeve. The rear install is certainly more common. It also makes it easier to work on, and it makes the closet much smaller. In these rear install, you only need 3 inches around this unit for it to operate. For the first pack units, which is the high efficiency gas units, a little bit more space, but again, we're trying to minimize the closet space required as much as possible. So these are some installs with the custom painted grills. This tricorn black is by far the most popular, but again, we can make them any color that's going to blend into the background of a building. The first pack units, these are the high efficiency gas systems, 95%. there are gas systems, there are air conditioning only with electric heat, and then there is a low ambient heat pump with electric heat as well. These systems are a smaller, wider cabinet. They fit, they were built, in fact, to compete in that Magic Pack and Napoleon condo pack market. So that's the sleeve size that they fit, and they're completely modular. So if the air conditioning system was to fail, just slide it out, slide a new one in, and the unit's up and running again. Wall sleeves, again, must be on an exterior wall because these systems are a little more, well, lower. Their sleeves are less, they don't carry the weight of the unit quite as much. Same architectural louvers. If we're dealing with the high efficiency gas, the gas vent is incorporated into part of the louver. In the high efficiency gas system, they did consider the potential for freezing condensate, especially in when these systems are running in the winter. So there are small heaters built into these units to ensure that the condensate flows correctly and no issues come about. These are the Eco Series units. What you see is they come in electric heat with air conditioning. They can come, this is the full line, I should say. So fresh pack with the ERVs, cool pack with electric heat pump, thermopack with hydronic heat, which is the same as the electric heat unit, but instead of putting, there is just a separate hot water coil stuck right on top of the unit, either 2 or 3 row coils, depending on the capacity required. So that's it. So this is where these slides are specifically brought right out of the spec sheet for this unit. So the fresh pack unit is between 3/4 and 2.5 tons, up to 10 kilowatts of electric heat. Hydronic heat, you know, we get up to close to 50,000 BTUs, but a lot of that depends on what the site can provide in gallons per minute and in temperature. And they are rated to 12 ER 305 COP. And the low ambient heat pump, I believe, is here now and built in. We talked about some of these pieces, but this is how the unit kind of looks. So fresh air and exhaust are vented into the sleeve. The ERV return can be ducted into the space, or it can just pull from around the unit as well. And then the supply can go right into the ductwork or also be ducted around. There's a piping configuration. We can get a good picture of how the unit is installed, either with the side or the top ERV ports built right into the sleeve through these pictures. And then this was the ERV fan data that I was referring to. Again, we can, if you want to dig deeper into this, we can certainly schedule a more one-on-one time to do that. So the ERV wiring, like I was saying, very simple. Standards, all the systems that we've talked about today are all single stage, simple thermostat wiring. If you're doing the fresh pack ERV, then it's just an additional wire connecting the U terminal to the thermostat, which is that ASHRAE ventilation program that we talked about. There are additional ERV controls. If you have a focus on carbon dioxide or humidity issues in the building, we can certainly provide controls to focus in on those issues. And they can either be mounted centrally in the building, or sorry, in the space, or each room individually. So that is the quick walkthrough on the product. Any questions on those, on the PTACs? Anything new? Anything that caught your eye? You see the screen there, Zach? The SpecTool?
Yeah. So we just had another question come in here.
Great.
On the ERV side. It seems like the ERV was a hot topic. Just
Oh, yeah.
wondering whether or not the ERV has defrost control.
It does, yeah. It has a built, so the defrost is controlled from within the unit, and it will control itself on and off based on its own measurements, from the incoming air, and if it's required.
Perfect. And then there's an additional couple of questions coming in here. You may have to do some interpretation for me.
Sure.
Do you have combined wall boxes for intake exhaust, but must come from the manufacturer? I think that's a bit of a comment, maybe on some of the additional options that you showed, right?
Oh, so yeah, what they're kind of referring to there is in standard ERVs that are standalone systems. So there was a comment that there is a minimum requirement to keep fresh air and exhaust from these ventilation systems apart, but a manufacturer can have their system approved as a concentric system. So it's one vent that has enough, that is able to separate the airflow enough that there's no recirculation, and they can be approved to sidestep that 10-foot minimum distance between the. So that's essentially what they've done here with the sleeve, is had the sleeve approved as a concentric vent. Yeah.
And
Or
then
wall
is
box.
there any like government incentives for these types of products?
Well, that's an excellent question. Not as of today, but we are all, waiting with bated breath about what's in this new federal budget. We expect a lot of, when they suddenly canceled the Greener Homes program earlier this year, there was a lot of whispers that there was going to be something in the new budget. We've heard more whispers, but certainly, yeah, there's nothing today that I can speak to, but certainly stay tuned to what the new plan is.
Yeah, so I'll take over screen sharing here, and I will run through a quick demo just for all those on the call. Thanks again for jumping on. And of course, Jeremy, if you have anything along the way, please feel free to dive in. I can get going
Sure.
on doing these webinar, these demos. Usually I've got like 5 minutes and I've got to crunch this down, but today we've got lots of time and we'll be able to walk through, I think, a full configuration. But
Great.
for those of you on the call that maybe this is your first time seeing ATS in a while, thank you again for coming back and jumping on. I assume an interesting topic to you. Obviously it's exciting for us to have FirstCo and really growing the breadth of product that's available on ATS. Again, if you have not been to ATS in a while, or if this is your first time, it's a free service paid for by the manufacturers. We provide configuration tools and assist in getting output formats that match your specification documents. You can sign up here. You can log in here on the top right. Just like every other website, once you log in, you'll be able to remember your password, and it has typical authentication requirements. One thing I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we record all of our ATS universities. So if you go to this Architects and Engineering tab, before you even log in, you have access to all of our previous recordings. So you can go to the webinar recordings here. You can also see the upcoming recordings. So those are available here in our ATS webinar section. You can see last week we had a great conversation around dog wash units. We've been very focused on the multifamily category this month. Dog wash stations are becoming very popular in multifamily. These FirstCo PTAC units are very popular in multifamily, and a number of other products and categories, everything from conversations about specific applications to specific products. And we have a number of code discussions as well. We also launched our templates, so we talk about a lot about various applications. We also provide brochures that highlight the products from our manufacturers that fit in these applications. These have a good, better, best type breakdown, teaches you about the product, and also helps you copy use the template as a starting point to select your own project. So you could use the multifamily template to help create your own project. This can also be done directly on the ATS SpecTool. This is where I am now. I've logged in. I'm in my demo engineer account. You can see we've got our dashboard here that tells you, how many projects and specs and products your firm has specified. We're always coming up with updates to this dashboard. This just had a refresh a couple of months ago, and it's getting another refresh. We're going to have even better widgets. You can see we've got our quick start widget here. Start now, start putting in your project information, and this will help you create. ATS essentially is create your folder and then drop your product into your folder. Then that product can, be output a number of different ways. But we do have a number of different folders with different levels of, degree to it. So a project would be where you have your project name, your location. Your location is going to allow us to apply our rule engine. So we'll have a different rule engine and different codes surrounded for, say, British Columbia, which just updated their BC building code, and Ontario, which just has a slightly different building code. Even though they're all working towards unification, there's still some slight differences. Your application is going to affect the products and the ranking of products within that application versus a quick spec. And this is important to know. The project is going to give you a rule engine. The quick spec lets you get to product faster, but does not have that building code rule engine to it. There's no location. This is just, you want something fast, you know exactly what you want. We can get into selecting our PTAC unit here. You can see I've got it favorited here at the top. This little pin lets me favorite my most used categories. I can jump right into selection. I don't have the rules engine again, but if you know what you're looking for, this is a great way to do it. You can see we've got our Eco series. We can then go through, configure, select, and it'll give you all the details. Before we get into configuration, a couple of features on the actual ATS SpecTool. We have added the manufacturer's spec sheets directly into the system. So if you go to the spec sheet button, it'll show you all the details you need on this product. We've got our Eco Series Cool Pack here. It'll tell you about it, tell you your dimensions, your sizes, all your different static pressures, all those details that you could possibly need to help you understand the product. And this is true from everything from pumps, where you get your pump curve, backflow, where you see your flow rates per line size and pressure drops, your water heaters, where you need to know your recovery. All those different pieces are going to be here, as well as, depending on the product, there may be a sizing tool located here as well. So a lot of different ways to help you understand the product. But in this case, let's walk through a configuration on a PTAC unit, Jeremy. So if we have let's say we've got a 10 to 15, or let's say a 15-story multifamily project that we're working on out in, Waterloo. Do you think we're likely looking at electric heat? Is that our first option to select here?
So hydronic is still the most common because we're still installing a ton of boilers in these buildings, and it is a great option with the high efficiency boilers we're putting in. We are seeing a lot of electric heat with heat pump as well, especially any building that has accepted federal grant money, where we're seeing a lot of push that if you take that money, well, you're going to have to be held to a higher, greener standard. So we're seeing a lot of push towards that. We've had a lot of projects with student residences recently with universities that are going all green energy as quickly as they can because they have that money behind them. So in this,
residences often go lead water sense as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. So actually, let's say electric heat for this one.
Perfect. So yeah, one thing I'll highlight as we go through, you can see first step we did, select your hydronic. The options that are not available with that, they gray out. But I can hit this reset button and we can go back and select our electric heat option. And now we want to include our heat pump as a secondary heat option, right?
Yep, let's do that. You don't have to. There is an electric heat only version, but heat pumps are certainly going to bring your energy usage costs down.
Perfect. And then
you can choose the size that you'd like.
Let's say 1 BTU or
1 ton. Yep. So 12,000 BTUs. Yeah. Very common in these spaces. And then your electric heat backup. Let's say 3. Yep, that sounds good. So now that we've chosen electric heat, we can't choose how many hydronic coil rows we want. And we don't need to worry about heating capacity. We've covered that off in the kilowatts. The only two selections left is, do I want the Eco Series or do I want the Fresh Pack with the ERV built into it? And that's the last choice to decide which unit you're going to put in.
Let's go integral ERV just to be on the cutting edge. And then you can see down here, options gone from gray to orange. We are good to go. We can add this product in. And, if there was other parts of what we call the fixture chain, that's your kind of scroll up here. That's why there's so much white space. Depending on what you're selecting, there may be other products that are needed as part of a complete package. This is a package terminal air conditioner. We've got everything we need all in one. So we can just go add our next drawing. And you come back, you could find your air handler. One thing I'll highlight again, if you haven't seen this in a while, we do have a number of categories on this page now. You can see the breadth that we've added to the spec tool, but we're adding more and more every day. If you run into challenges, can't find what you're looking for, we've got a search categories here. So you can search air and find, search the air handler that way. If you know exactly the model number that you're looking for, you can search by model number. But to be honest, I personally always just get into the category. So if we want to go into an air handler, we've done our suites now, but let's say there's an amenity space. We've got a party room, Jeremy. What are we going to be looking at for that?
So when I'm teaching our sales reps this exact question, what if someone comes in and says, I need a unit that does this X, Y, and Z, what questions do we really need to ask? And I always start with, what type of heating are you using? Like, do we have a boiler? Is it electric heat? Is it gas? And so what's great about, and what's the shift has been with ATS is working with plumbing fitting, like plumbing products, it's fairly cut and dry, right? You choose a toilet and there may be a couple of options in the configurator, but it's, a toilet is a toilet. I know my plumbing counterparts hate me for that. Yeah, they and then I try to teach them HVAC and they're like, oh, this is complicated. The great thing about the configurator is we've been able to build a huge breadth of product into these categories. So these air handlers or fan coils, there's 4 product options, but depending on the selections that you make, it can be a huge number of products to meet any requirement. So the key, like the message I really want to, if you're when you come to ATS and look for these HVAC products, we do want you to take that next step of configuring the product so that you can get the right BTUs and the unit is going to do what you need it to do. Because if you just choose air handler, I'm going to come back with a whole bunch of questions for you, right? What voltage is it? What type of fan do you need? How much heating? How much cooling? Where's the condenser going? So let's choose one of the commercial units, the up to 25-ton units. So lots of choices here. And because these are only hydronic units, we have a lot of selections that we can choose, right? So we can choose let's choose a 60,000 BTU cooling. Yep.
And in general, we're going to be walking kind of left to right. That's
sure.
How this is set up, right?
So that's totally, yes, you would normally do that. And you would know based on your design, whether you need a horizontal unit or a vertical unit, especially with a unit that can be very large. If this unit's going in the ceiling above a party room, then we're going to go horizontal, right? But if it's got its own, if it's sitting in a mechanical room, then we may be using a vertical. So you can choose, yep, horizontal, very common. Scroll down a bit. So you can, fan type is an easy one. Pretty much anything we want to be putting in these days with ECM, everyone's got their exceptions, but we can choose ECM. So the only options here that we have left in these units are about how many coil rows do we actually need. So the 2-pipe or 4-pipe system, that's one that you can do fairly quickly as well. You'll know if your building is doing a full hydronic system and then a separate chilled water system, or if you're doing a single hydronic system in the building that's going to be switched from heating to cooling seasonally, then you can choose 2-pipe. Usually, especially in these units, it's a 4-pipe system so that they can do what they need to do regardless of the season. So yeah, we'll choose 4-pipe. So now the only selections left are heating and cooling rows. Now, if it's a 2-pipe unit, The heat cool rows would be the same for heating or cooling. Since we've chosen 4 pipe, we have to make 1 selection for heating and 1 selection for cooling. Now, this is where we need to take it another step, right? We need to dig a little deeper in here. For what I'm going to recommend to you is if you're specifying a unit of this type, you choose the largest available option, because that's going to trigger us to look at, if we were to quote it, we're going to quote the more expensive unit, and that's going to build us in some protection. Once this unit is on the spec and it's time for shop drawings, that's when we need to nail this unit down to exactly what it needs to do. But if you select this unit and you say, yep, this is what I want to put onto my project, if I see this, or if the ATS specification reps see it, we're going to call you and say, hey, let's take another step. Let's contact the manufacturer. I've got a program called eSelect from First Company that I'll build this unit for you. I'll put in the water temperatures that you're using, the flow rates, the airflow, the static pressure. I'll build this unit and hand you a spec sheet that this is exactly what unit you need. These are the rows that we're going to need to accommodate the capacity that you're looking for. And this is the unit that needs to be on your schedule. So the reason I chose this commercial unit for this walkthrough is because there is one more step to this that you need to get yourself involved with.
Yeah, this is a great, starting point. You're not going to get in trouble if you put this onto your spec. I'm sure everyone on the call's very familiar about, with how easy it is to get more money after, it's so much easier to go up in cost. And obviously you can sense the sarcasm there. So that's why we're going to start at the 6th row. That's going to be our model that we can go out to market with if need be. And then you'll get a call from Jeremy, myself, any of my team. We'll loop this together and make sure that, we'll come down in the cost and get down to the right accurate selection.
Yeah, I will say that First Companies, they do hold the same price regardless of the coil rows that you choose. So you're not going to get surprised by a change in cost down the road from something like this. If we're just changing selections to get the right BTUs that we need, especially if you put in the correct cooling capacity, that gets us most of the way there. Or if you've given us the CFM on the cooling, that really helps us select the right unit, obviously, because the CFM drives the size of the unit, the cabinet, the fan. That gives us a ton of information. So do the best you can on these, and then we'll nail it down for you afterwards.
We'll finish that off. We'll add that into our quick spec. I mentioned, early the difference between kind of your quick spec, your project, and then of course masters and templates we haven't touched yet. On the template side, I think when we launched templates, it was very much here's everything. But one thing we've really worked on as we're iterating our templates is this great new feature that just launched called our quick access drawer, where templates really are good to help build your own master. If I was doing, say, a lot of condos, I would want maybe to have a master set up for specific owner groups. That way, all you have to do is when you have a new project, come in, we can do the rest of our amenity space here. You can see all the different products in here. I can just drag and drop this into my project and then configure after, and I'm at least already in the right direction. Now, this is going to get you 80% of the way, and you can see how quick. Now, of course, all these are editable. All these are adjustable in terms of, where we want to sequence them. I can move these ones back up to the top. I'll put that as 0. We'll put that as 0. And those will pop up here right up at the top. And, the templates and these masters are great for when you have repeat work. We want to work with you to help get that master set up in the first place. And that's what myself, Mo, our spec team really are great at, is helping you get your masters organized on the system. But then you can have, this one only has the one product group. But I could go, let's use our templates as an example as well. I can go to, say, our multifamily residential Canada. And you can see we've got good suite, better suite, best suite, dog wash stations, all these different HVAC options that we've added now. And we can go into, say we've got our hydronic cooling there. We can go to our heating and DX cooling. And again, you can drag and drop and then configure. So you're in the right family of product right from the start. And then, there's a best guess here, but of course you should log in. You should click on this edit button and then reconfigure to make sure it's appropriate capacity to your project. Now, once you're done that though, we showed you how nice and easy it is to get these products in here. We call this PTAC 1. We've got an auto-generated label here, but we can call this AHU 1. And then if we just want to print off these two products that we've configured, we can check the boxes for it, and it's just going to download those. If I want to add in this amenity sink, I can do so. If I want to select the entire package, I can do so. And I've gone through, I'll show as well the project that I set up for our configuration demo here. We've got a couple of products pre-selected, and you can also download an entire product group. You can see I've got a fixtures and drainage package here. If I don't want to include the fixtures and drainage, then I'll just download the one group. If I do want to download the fixtures and drainage as well, then I can do that. But I'll go back. You can see my tool, my bar here gives me quick access to our quick specs. We'll go back to that PTAC that we set up, and we'll download these two. The download formats, we have our submittal, we have schedules, we have long specs, short specs, CSI 3-part specs, the manufacturer spec, Revit. So I'll download all these, and then we'll see, some depending on how many fixtures are in the package, how many selections are in your package, how many product groups are in your package. This can take, maybe up to a minute or so. But you can see it's going to give you progress bar, shows you all the files that are being downloaded. You can use this to download the individual files, or when it's done, you'll get a zip file of all the packages together. Well, we're up to 60% now. It's finished 3 out of the 5. We'll give it a second to finish up. So I know this is the longest waiting portion that we have. We have timed it. We are around a minute for any large multi-selection options. So the download time is what it is. It's still one of the things I like to say, I'm unaware of any other place where you can get all of these formats in one. You can get your Revit, you can go to BIM object, fine, download your Revit. You can go to manufacturer's website, fine, download their cut sheets. You can go to, there are a couple of other specific spec writing platforms and download just those specific specs. Having all of those in one is really what I think of the ATS advantage, and having all the breadth of product that we have here is also the ATS advantage. So there we go. We've downloaded our file there, and we can pop it up. You can see I've got the one that I downloaded earlier here. But we'll go into our most recently downloaded. We've got the Revit files here. This is going to have everything for that. We've got we'll show the CSI format. You can see we've got our 23 with our PTAC unit. Gives you nice open and editable, all the formats open and editable. Gives you the fixture tag, description of the product, and then your basis of design down here. Of course, we've got our long spec as well. We'll go back into the downloads. The difference of the long spec is really kind of, the long spec is our ATS format is what I would say, whereas the CSI spec follows the standard CSI nomenclature method. But again, open and editable, gives you a bit of a title of the category, as well as a little bit more of a call out on the specific product. The manufacturer's spec sheet. You can see it gives it table of contents for all the product that we copied in. And then the Eco Series Fresh Pack that we selected. All the details you could possibly need, including the different paint.
That's they put in some common ones, but they will paint any Sherwin-Williams color. We've had some oddballs over the years for sure.
We'll finish off here showing off our ATS submittal, which I imagine most people are pretty familiar with, where you're going to have the configured selection here shown on the left, as well as showing the other options that would be available. So yeah, that is the quick demo on the SpecTool. Thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully everyone learned a lot. That was a fantastic overview, Jeremy. I really appreciate you giving me the time and giving me all that information that you did today. I learned a lot, and hopefully the people on the team on the call certainly learned a lot as well. We'll stick around for another couple of minutes here in case any additional questions come in, but we will have our CPD certificate of attendance out later on this week. If you have more questions on these products, please feel free to reach out to me, zach@atspec.com. And more importantly, if you need help sizing, selecting, if this is your first time using the configurator on our SpecTool, we'll be happy to walk through it with you. And if you have questions on the product or getting it added to your master, please reach out. That's what our team is here to do, is help you get your masters set up on the system. And then we'll go on from there. Getting a number of thank yous, getting a couple of people saying, great job, Jeremy. So there you go. You nailed it.
Why, thank you. I do see a question about the operating temperature of low ambient heat pump, because that's a new feature. I don't know it off the top of my head, but certainly reach out to Zach and we can make sure that we get that question answered for you.
Yeah, thank you, Adele. It's nice to see you joining us. I've heard from you in a while, so thanks for jumping on. And yeah, please reach out. I'll loop you in with Jeremy, and we'll be sure to follow up with you.
Thanks so much, everyone.
All right. Bye for now. We'll see you next week for another ATS University. Bye for now.